In the heart of the snowy north, where the sky shimmered with swirling auroras and the air smelled of pine and frost, lay a magical place known as Moonlight Village. This was no ordinary village. It was where reindeer were trained to pull Santa's sleigh, delivering gifts to children all over the world on Christmas Eve. It was a place of wonder, excitement, and joyful laughter as young reindeer learned to leap across the clouds and dash through the starlit sky. Among them was Oriole, a small reindeer with soft silver fur and bright, curious eyes that reflected the twinkling stars above. Unlike the other reindeer in the village, Oriole could not fly. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he flapped his legs or sprinted along the snowdrifts, he remained grounded. It wasn't that he lacked strength. His legs were sturdy and his heart was filled with determination. But there was something different about him, something he did not understand. Instead of leaving hoofprints in the snow like the others, Oriole's footsteps glowed. Wherever he walked, a faint golden light appeared beneath his hooves, twinkling like fireflies before fading into the air. The other young reindeer marveled at it at first. "Wow, look at Oriole's magic hooves," they would say, tracing the shimmering prints he left behind. But as time passed and the others soared higher and higher into the skies, their laughter turned to whispers. "Why can't he fly? Maybe his footprints are a bad omen. What kind of reindeer leaves glowing tracks but can't even lift off the ground?" Oriole heard their words. He saw how they drifted away from him, leaving him alone in the training fields, watching them twirl and spin in the sky while he remained earthbound. He tried not to let it bother him, but each night, as he looked up at the glowing auroras and heard the distant bells of the elder reindeer ringing through the sky, a question settled deep in his heart. Why am I different? One winter night, as the full moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the snow-covered village, Oriole wandered to the edge of the valley, where the trees of the silent forest stood like tall, watchful shadows. The silent forest. It was a place where no wind ever blew, where the trees never rustled, and no stars shone through its dense canopy. A place of mystery, a place of fear. The elders spoke of a great curse buried deep within the heart of the forest, a darkness that swallowed all light and sound. No one dared enter, no one ever returned. And yet, Oriole's hooves began to glow brighter. He gasped, lifting one foot and stepping forward. With every step, his footprints formed a shimmering golden path, one that stretched past the village and deep into the darkened woods. His heart pounded. This had never happened before, as if something or someone was calling to him from within the silence. Oriole hesitated, his breath forming little clouds in the cold night air. A gentle whisper seemed to drift from the trees, curling around him like a secret waiting to be discovered. Follow the path. For the first time in his life, Oriole felt that his footprints meant something. For the first time, he had a purpose. With one last glance back at Moonlight Village, at the glowing rooftops, the twinkling lights, and the reindeer soaring high above, Oriole took a step forward into the darkness, and the footprints lit the way. Oriole stepped cautiously onto the glowing path, his breath curling into mist as the chill of the silent forest wrapped around him. The trees loomed tall, their blackened trunks stretching endlessly into the sky, their branches twisting like frozen fingers. There was no sound, not even the whisper of the wind. The only noise came from the gentle crunch of his hooves against the snow, each step igniting another bright footprint. The deeper he went, the darker the world around him became. The trees seemed to sway without moving, their shadows shifting as if watching him. Oriole's heart pounded. Was this truly the work of a curse? The elders of Moonlight Village had always warned about the silent forest. The trees were not always so lifeless, Elder Varn had once told them. his deep voice full of sorrow. Long ago, the forest thrived with songbirds, rushing rivers, and golden sunlight. But something happened, something that stole its voice and drowned it in darkness. It is said that a single reindeer, gifted with light, will one day break the curse, but none have ever dared to go in. Oriel had always thought it was just an old winter tale meant to keep young ones from wandering too far, but now he wasn't so sure. As he ventured further, the silence became heavy, pressing against him like unseen hands. His ears twitched. He could hear nothing but his own breathing, yet he felt something watching. Then, a whisper. "Oriel, you should not be here." Oriel's eyes widened, his hooves skidding to a halt. The whisper didn't come from the trees. It came from above. He looked up just in time to see a pair of enormous golden eyes blinking down at him. With a sudden sweep of feathers, a great snowy owl glided down from a low-hanging branch, landing gracefully on a frost-covered stump. The light of Oriel's footprints reflected in its eyes, making them gleam like twin moons. The owl fluffed its speckled feathers, tilting its head in curiosity. "You're a strange one, aren't you?" the owl mused, its voice deep and knowing, yet oddly warm. Oriel stared in shock. A talking owl. "Who are you?" Oriel asked, his voice breaking the silence. The owl ruffled its feathers and gave a small bow. "I am Nyx, keeper of the winds, watcher of the forgotten paths, and you, young one, are walking a dangerous road." Oriel swallowed. "I don't understand," he admitted. "My footprints, they led me here. I think I'm supposed to break the curse." Nyx clicked his beak thoughtfully. "Perhaps, but do you even know what the curse is?" Oriel hesitated. He didn't. The owl's golden eyes softened. "Then let me show you," Nyx said. "Come, follow me, but tread carefully, young reindeer. The shadows here are not just shadows." Nyx lifted his wings and took flight, gliding just ahead of Oriel, his silent wings barely stirring the air. Oriel followed, his glowing prints illuminating the ground. With every step, the trees seemed to lean closer, their branches whispering soundlessly, like ghosts frozen in time. The forgotten heart of the forest. The path narrowed, leading them to a vast clearing. And there, in the very center of the darkness, stood something that took Oriel's breath away. A giant tree, far larger than any he had ever seen, rose into the sky, its trunk twisted and gnarled like ancient roots reaching for the stars. But what made it truly eerie was what surrounded it. Encircling the tree in an unbroken ring were thousands of glowing hoofprints, just like Oriel's. Oriel's legs trembled as he stepped closer. These are like mine!" he gasped. Nyx landed on a nearby rock, his gaze unreadable. "Indeed," the owl murmured. "You are not the first reindeer to come here, but none have ever returned." A chill ran down Oriel's spine. "What happened to them?" he whispered. Nyx's feathers ruffled uneasily. "They tried to break the curse, but they did not understand what it truly was." Oriel swallowed hard. "Then tell me," he pleaded. "Help me understand." The owl was silent for a long moment before finally speaking. The silent forest was once alive, brimming with light and song, but many years ago a powerful force stole its voice. It sealed away the wind, the rivers, and even the light itself, and trapped them beneath this tree. Every reindeer who has tried to break the curse before you has left behind their footprints, yet none have ever awakened the magic hidden here. Oriel's glowing hooves itched as he stepped toward the tree. "But why me?" he asked. "Why do I have these footprints? Why am I different?" Nyx studied him carefully. "Because you are the last piece of the puzzle," the owl finally said. "Your footprints are not a burden, Oriel. They are a key, but whether they unlock the curse or fall into the darkness like the others depends on you. A shiver ran through Oriel as he looked at the massive tree. A puzzle, a key, a curse. The answer lay in the footprints that had come before his, and the step he had yet to take. Somewhere deep within the heart of the silent forest, something was waiting, and Oriel knew he had to find it, even if it meant stepping into the unknown. Oriel stood at the edge of the glowing circle, his breath coming in short, misty puffs. The giant, ancient rainbow tree loomed before him, its twisted roots tangled together like ancient hands gripping the earth. But unlike the stories of the elders, the tree was not vibrant or full of color. It was lifeless, drained of its brilliance, shrouded in a cold, silent darkness. The circle of glowing hoofprints surrounding it pulsed faintly, like the remnants of old embers waiting to ignite. "These prints! They belong to the reindeer who came before me," Oriel murmured, his voice barely a whisper. Nyx, perched on a low-hanging branch, observed him with sharp golden eyes. "Yes," the owl replied. "Each one of them followed the same path drawn here by their own glowing footprints, believing they were destined to break the curse." Oriel hesitated. If none of them had succeeded, what chance did he have? "Why did they fail?" he asked. Nyx ruffled his feathers. "Because they tried to fight the darkness with force, rather than understanding it." Oriel frowned. "What do you mean?" Nyx let out a small sigh. "The darkness that plagues this forest is not a simple spell. It is a wound. A wound that has been left open for centuries, festering beneath the roots of this tree. The reindeer before you tried to banish the darkness, to chase it away, but they never stopped to ask the most important question." Oriel's ears perked. "Which is?" Nyx's golden eyes gleamed. "Why does the darkness exist in the first place?" A cold wind swept through the clearing, making the branches of the rainbow tree creak. The whispering of the forest grew louder, like 1,000 voices just beyond hearing. Oriel shivered. "If I don't banish it, then what am I supposed to do?" Nyx tilted his head. "That is what you must discover, young one, and time is running short." Oriel looked around, noticing how the shadows had grown thicker at the edge of the clearing. The darkness was creeping closer. His glowing footprints flickered slightly, dimming as if they too were uncertain. He took a cautious step forward. Nothing happened. He took another. A low, echoing sound rumbled beneath his hooves, like something stirring beneath the earth. Then a voice, deep, sorrowful, and ancient. "Why, have you come?" Oriel gasped, his hooves skidding against the frozen ground. The voice had come from the rainbow tree itself. Nyx remained still, his gaze unreadable. "Answer, Oriel," the owl murmured. "The forest is listening." Oriel swallowed. I followed my footprints," he said, his voice trembling. "I thought I was meant to break the curse, to bring back the light." For a long moment there was only silence. Then the voice returned, low and resonating like a distant storm. "Light was once here, and yet it faded." Oriel stepped closer, his heart pounding. "Why?" he asked. The ground trembled. The ancient roots of the tree shifted, groaning as if trying to move. "Because light abandoned us," the voice whispered. "And in its place, only silence remained." Oriel's breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" he pressed. Nyx watched him carefully. "Oriel," the owl said, "you need to listen." Oriel closed his eyes, trying to hear beyond the silence. He let the cold air settle in his lungs, let the whispers of the trees wash over him. And then, beneath everything, he heard it. A heartbeat, faint, fragile, but still alive. The rainbow tree was still alive, but barely. "The forest isn't cursed," Oriel realized, his eyes snapping open. "It's forgotten, trapped in a world where no one hears it anymore." Nyx nodded. "And what does a lost voice need, young one?" Oriel hesitated, then whispered, "Someone to listen." A gust of wind swept through the clearing. The shadows shuddered. The hoofprints at Oriel's feet brightened, glowing more fiercely than before. The ground trembled again, but this time it wasn't a warning. It was a response. The silent forest was beginning to wake up, but something was still missing. Oriel turned to Nyx. "You mentioned a key," he said. "The box of silent winds. Where is it?" Nyx lifted his wings. "Ah, that is where your true journey begins." The owl took off, gliding toward a path that twisted deeper into the forest where the darkness was thickest. Oriel looked once more at the rainbow tree. It was waiting. And so, with one final deep breath, he followed Nyx into the unknown. Oriel's glowing hooves cast a shimmering trail behind him as he followed Nyx deeper into the silent forest. The further they went, the more the darkness thickened, curling around the trees like silent, sleeping shadows. Despite the eerie quiet, the forest was alive in its own way. Leaves rustled though there was no wind. Tree branches bent and swayed as if watching them pass. The shadows weren't just empty darkness. They moved, whispering in soft, hushed voices. "Nyx," Oriel whispered, "are you sure this is the right way?" The owl flapped his wings, perching on a low-hanging branch. "Quite sure," he said, his voice calm. "The box of silent winds is hidden deep within the forgotten hollow. We must pass 3 enchanted gates to reach it." Oriel gulped. 3 enchanted gates? That sounded complicated. "And what exactly is the box of silent winds?" he asked, stepping carefully over a tangle of glowing roots. Nyx's golden eyes flickered. "It is an ancient artifact," the owl explained, "a vessel that carries the last remnants of the forest's lost voice. The key to restoring the rainbow tree lies inside." Oriel's ears twitched. "Then we just need to find it," he said, determined. Nyx let out a small chuckle. "If only it were that simple, young one." Just then the forest shifted, the trees ahead parted, revealing a towering archway of woven silver vines, glowing faintly in the darkness. The first gate, the whispering echoes. Oriel stepped forward, peering at the silver vines. They shimmered like moonlight, pulsing gently. As he approached, a soft voice floated through the air. "Only those who listen may pass." Nyx perched beside him. "The first gate tests your ears, Oriel. You must hear what has been forgotten." Oriel flicked his ears forward, trying to listen. But at first, there was nothing, just silence. Then a faint echo rose from the vines. It was the sound of laughter, soft, gentle giggles, playful and warm. Then a melody, a song once sung in this very forest. Oriel's heart pounded. "I hear it," he exclaimed. The silver vines glowed brighter, unraveling to form a path. "Good," Nyx said. "Then let us move forward." They passed through, stepping into a clearing bathed in soft blue light. But they didn't have time to marvel. The second gate loomed ahead. The second gate, the Shadow's Trial. This gate was different. Instead of vines, it was a wall of shadows, shifting and swirling like liquid darkness. A voice, low and rumbling, emerged from the void. "Only those who face their fears may pass." Oriel felt a shiver run through him. "What does that mean?" he asked, glancing at Nyx. The owl simply gestured forward. "Step into the shadows, Oriel." He hesitated but took a deep breath and stepped inside. The moment he did, the darkness rushed in around him, swallowing him whole. Oriel gasped. He was no longer in the forest. He was back in Moonlight Village. But something was wrong. No one could see him. The other reindeer were training, soaring through the sky, laughing together, but they ignored him. "Hey!" Oriel called out. "I'm here!" But his voice made no sound. His hooves left their glowing footprints behind, but no one noticed. He was invisible, forgotten, alone. A terrible fear gripped his chest. "This is your greatest fear," came Nyx's voice, distant but steady. "Being unseen, being different." Oriel's hooves trembled. "I don't want to be alone," he whispered. Then something stirred within him. His glowing footprints pulsed beneath him, stronger than before. Oriel straightened. "I am here," he said, this time with certainty. The darkness shuddered. Oriel stamped his hooves, leaving behind a brilliant golden glow. "I am here," he said again. The shadows tore apart, shattering into wisps of fading mist. Oriel blinked. He was back in the forest. Nyx smiled. "Well done, young one." The second gate had opened. The third gate, the Keeper of the Winds. The final gate was a giant stone doorway covered in glowing symbols. A soft breeze swirled around them, whispering words Oriel couldn't understand. At the center of the gate stood a tall, hollow tree trunk. Inside it, something glimmered faintly. Nyx's eyes narrowed. "The Keeper of the Winds watches over this gate. You must earn its trust." Oriel stepped closer, and a gust of wind blasted him backward. A deep, ancient voice rumbled, "Why have you come?" Oriel pushed himself up. "To bring back the forest's voice," he declared. The wind howled, testing him. "And what will you give in return?" Oriel hesitated. What could he offer? Then he looked down at his glowing footprints. "I will leave my light," he said, "so that no path is ever lost again." The wind stilled. A hush fell over the forest. Then the hollow tree cracked open. Inside, resting atop a pedestal of stone, was the box of silent winds. Oriel reached out, carefully lifting the ancient artifact. It was small, barely the size of his hoof, made of smooth silver with swirling engravings. Nyx's feathers ruffled with excitement. "You've done it, Oriel," he said softly. Oriel stared at the box. It was warm in his hooves, pulsing faintly. "What now?" he asked. Nyx's golden eyes gleamed. "Now, we return to the rainbow tree. The final test awaits." Oriel took a deep breath, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had passed the 3 gates. He had earned the trust of the silent forest. But one last challenge remained. Oriel stood before the ancient rainbow tree, the box of silent winds held tightly between his hooves. The forest, once thick with shadows, was now watching in anticipation. The trees, the wind, the unseen voices hidden within the silence. Nyx fluttered to his side, his golden eyes gleaming. "This is it, young one," the owl said softly. "The final step." Oriel's heart pounded. He had come so far. He had listened, faced his fears, and proven his worth. But now the greatest task lay before him, restoring the lost voice of the silent forest. His glowing footprints surrounded the rainbow tree, forming a complete circle of light. The moment he stepped inside, a hush fell over the clearing. The air grew still. The darkness paused. Even the wind held its breath. Oriel looked down at the box. The engravings shimmered under his touch, pulsing like a quiet heartbeat. He could feel something inside, something ancient yet yearning to be free. "How do I open it?" he asked. Nyx tilted his head. "The silent winds will only answer to one who truly listens," the owl murmured. Oriel swallowed. This wasn't about power. It wasn't about breaking a curse. It was about understanding. Slowly he closed his eyes. He let the silence settle around him. He listened, not just with his ears, but with his heart. And then he heard it. A voice, soft, trembling, hidden beneath centuries of quiet. "I was forgotten," the voice whispered. "Alone, waiting." Oriel's chest ached. The forest had never been cursed. It had simply been left behind. "You are not alone," Oriel whispered back. "I hear you." The box shuddered in his hooves. A soft click echoed through the clearing. Then a gust of wind erupted from the box. It was not fierce, not angry, but gentle and warm, like a long-lost breath finally exhaled. The wind swirled around the rainbow tree, weaving through the branches, filling the hollow spaces with song. The shadows peeled away, replaced by soft, shimmering light. The silent forest was waking up. Oriel opened his eyes, his heart swelling. For the first time in centuries, the tree glowed with colour. Reds, blues, golds, and purples. The rainbow tree had returned. The ground trembled, not with fear, but with life. The forest exhaled, its voice no longer lost, but found. Nyx let out a delighted laugh, his feathers ruffling in the warm breeze. "You did it, Oriel!" he cried. Oriel beamed. The glowing footprints at his hooves shone brighter than ever, not just guiding him, but spreading throughout the forest, weaving into the paths where light had never reached. The silent forest was silent no more. The journey home. The moon hung high and full as Oriel and Nyx made their way back to Moonlight Village. The glowing footprints continued to spread, leaving a soft golden trail behind them, lighting up the once darkened paths. As they emerged from the forest, a gasp of wonder greeted them. The reindeer of Moonlight Village had gathered near the training grounds, watching in astonishment as the glow from Oriel's footprints stretched beyond the trees, weaving a luminous path through the snow. Oriel hesitated. Would they still see him as different? Then someone stepped forward. Elder Cedric, the wisest reindeer in the village, his antlers silvered with age, approached slowly. He gazed at Oriel, not with disappointment, not with pity, but with pride. "Oriel," Cedric said, his voice warm, "the Silent Forest has returned to us, and it was you who led it back." Murmurs of awe rippled through the crowd. Oriel's ears twitched. "But I didn't fly," he said softly. Cedric chuckled. "Flying is not the only way to lead, young one," he said. "Your gift is not of the sky, but of the light, and tonight you have lit the path for us all." The realization sank in. Oriel's difference had never been a weakness. It had always been his greatest strength. A cheer rose from the reindeer around him. The other trainees ran up, nuzzling him, laughing, welcoming him as one of their own. Oriel's heart swelled with warmth. For the first time, he wasn't just following the path. He was leading it. Nyx flapped his wings, perching on Oriel's back. "So, young one," he said with a smirk. "Where to next?" Oriel grinned. "Home," he said, looking toward the cozy lights of Moonlight Village. "And after that, wherever my footprints take me next." As the stars glittered above, Oriel stepped forward, leaving behind a trail of golden light, guiding the way for generations to come. The night was calm now, the winds gentle and warm as they flowed through the newly awakened silent forest. The leaves whispered softly, no longer bound by silence, but speaking in a hush-hush song like a lullaby carried by the stars. Oriel's glowing footprints shimmered on the snowy ground, casting a golden light that danced across the trees. His journey was complete, his purpose fulfilled. But his heart felt lighter than ever. Nix, the wise owl, perched on Oriel's back, his feathers ruffling as he let out a content sigh. "You've done something wonderful tonight, young one," Nix murmured, his voice carrying the same softness as the wind. "You've brought back the lost voice of the forest and found your own in the process." Oriel smiled, his legs no longer heavy with doubt, but light with certainty. As they neared Moonlight Village, the warm glow of lanterns welcomed them, flickering gently like fireflies in the night. The other reindeer had already returned to their cozy homes, snuggled in the warmth of their wooden cottages, their chimneys puffing wisps of smoke into the star-speckled sky. The night was perfect. As Oriel took each step, the soft crunch of snow beneath his hooves felt soothing, rhythmic, familiar. His glowing footprints faded behind him, blending into the moonlight like whispers of magic settling into the world. Nix gave a slow, tired hoot. "It is time for rest," he said, fluffing his wings. Oriel nodded, his body warm and relaxed, his heart content. He was ready. The cozy resting place. Oriel stepped into his small, snug wooden cottage, the scent of pine and cinnamon filling the air. A soft golden lantern swayed gently near his bedside, casting a warm glow over the walls decorated with tiny carvings of stars and reindeer in flight. He exhaled deeply, his breath visible in the cool night air, before settling onto his favorite pile of soft blankets, layered in hues of silver and blue, just like the winter sky outside. Nix landed beside him, tucking his head under his wing with a satisfied sigh. "The night has been long, young one," Nix murmured. "But now you can rest. The forest is safe, the village is warm, and the stars are watching over you." Oriel let his eyes drift to the frosted window, where the moon hung large and luminous, watching over the world with quiet kindness. The world was at peace, and so was he. He yawned, stretching his legs, his body sinking into the softness of his blankets. Outside, the wind whispered, not in warning, but in song. The lullaby of the silent forest was no longer one of loneliness, but of comfort, of belonging. It was a song of home, drifting toward dreams. As Oriel's breathing grew slower, his glowing footprints dimmed, melting into the cozy stillness of his room. His eyelids felt heavier, like snowflakes settling gently onto the earth. His thoughts began to wander, like little footprints drifting into dreamland. He imagined himself walking across a path of stars, the soft glow of his footprints leading him somewhere wonderful. Maybe to a hidden valley where the northern lights danced like ribbons in the sky. Maybe to a magical field of silver flowers that only bloomed under the full moon. Maybe to a place where dreams and reality met, where the silent forest whispered stories to those who listened. Wherever his dreams led him, he knew one thing for sure. He belonged. He was exactly where he was meant to be. He was Oriel, the reindeer who did not fly, but guided the light. Soft sleep affirmations. As Oriel sank deeper into sleep, a warm, soothing voice, like the whisper of the wind, like Nix's gentle words, like the forest speaking in quiet melodies, wrapped around him, carrying him deeper into dreams. You are safe. You are warm and cozy. You are exactly as you are meant to be. The night is calm, the stars are watching, and you are at peace. You are loved. You are special. Your light shines in its own way, guiding the world in ways you cannot yet see. Breathe in. Feel the warmth of your blankets, the softness of your pillow, the weightlessness of sleep. Breathe out. Let go of the day. Let go of any worries. Let yourself drift, drift, drift into the coziest sleep. Oriel's breathing grew slower. His glowing footprints faded completely, melting into the softness of slumber. His dreams were warm, golden, filled with light. Final moments of sleepiness. Outside, the silent forest sighed with contentment. The rainbow tree shimmered softly in the distance, its colours pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the land. The winds were no longer silent, but humming. A quiet lullaby, singing the forest to sleep, singing the world to peace. Oriel's ears twitched one last time, catching the gentle rhythm of the night before they drooped, relaxed and at ease. His hooves curled slightly, nestled in the softness of his blankets. His breathing became soft, slow, steady. The stars continued to twinkle, the world continued to turn, and somewhere, in the heart of the silent forest, magic rested once more, until the next adventure called. Oriel smiled in his sleep, and then, at last, he dreamed.